Welcome to Mr. Brown's Basement, a channel devoted to sharing the craft of repairing, restoring, and modifying vintage electronic gear, and other random stuff. Today's video is about a JVC 3100R video capsule. Let me show you what this product looks like. Now, if you're not familiar with old electronics, you may not know what a video capsule is. But since you've tuned into this video, you're going to find out in a moment. It's a product made from the days when manufacturers weren't afraid to be innovative, to try different form factors, to be imaginative, to go beyond the polished black rectangular slab, to make products that are not only useful, but interesting and beautiful to look at, to make products that are desirable and sought after during and beyond their product cycle. But those days are gone. So let me back up and show you what this actually is. It's a television. Isn't that nice? But unfortunately, it's a television which has seen better days. The case is really filthy, and there are some knobs missing on these slider controls. There is one switch whose shaft is broken right there, and another which is broken right over here. The chances of getting a replacement part for this TV, chances are about zero. I would have to buy another whole video capsule if I could find one in good shape and pirate it for parts. And that's just not affordable. First thing is to test it, because there could be other issues, who knows? Okay, well, let's plug it in. Let's see what it does. Hopefully no sparks or smoke. Turn down the light. Turn this on. Oh. There we go. Power on. The tuning is here. The radio works. How about the TV? Have part of a raster. Let's look at the symptoms. I think back to a couple of other transistor sets I serviced with similar issues. One was a Panasonic Pandora. The culprit were capacitors in the vertical oscillator that were basically open. The other was a Sony Micro TV. Most of the capacitors in the set were bad, and the vertical amplifier transistor was basically a diode. Given the age of the set, I'm thinking it's probably the capacitors, possibly with other issues as well. This needs to be opened up. At the very least, I think the capacitors are probably toast. Certainly the ones in the vertical oscillator. Normally you would not allow a TV to run with a horizontal line for very long because it could burn the phosphor. But because the brightness is really so poor, it's not going to damage the phosphor. That's it. That's full brightness. Let's get this apart and see what it looks like inside. I would say maybe dirt and mold. This all will have to come apart. I haven't discharged the high voltage anode right there, so this could still be charged. Now it looks like there is corrosion on the back of the CRT board. Corrosion or something. That will all have to be cleaned off. It looks like it would be fairly easy to take out the sweep board here. The deflection yoke does unplug from it with this connector right there. This is the tube socket board. I'd love to put it into an ultrasonic cleaner bath, but I don't think I can do that. Whatever's on the underside of the CRT board is also on the underside of the deflection board. I don't know what this greasy brown stuff is. It's not solder flux. It's not leaked capacitor juice. It's not spillage of something like Coca-Cola. It doesn't appear to be coming from the PCB itself because it hasn't raised the solder mask. It looks like dry cell electrolyte, but doesn't smell like that. If you're familiar with this brown stuff, please leave me a comment about it. This is the board cleaned off. I've never seen anything like this before. It's gummy and sticky, but appears to be soluble in 99% IPA. Expect to use elbow grease to get it all off. Even the small PC board that holds the contrast and brightness controls didn't escape the brown goo on the underside. It's got to be cleaned off. This is closer to the way it should be. To make it easier to realign the yoke, I'm going to put a mark on the yoke and a mark on the picture tube. And when they're lined up, then I know that the yoke is in the right orientation. If it's not, the picture will be tilted one way or the other. This is the sweep board removed. Since I don't know what this brown goo is, I want it all gone before recapping. First, it may interfere with the flow and adhesion of solder. Second, fumes from it may be toxic. Finally, this goo may be conductive and could provide alternate electrical paths. I can actually read what's on the board now. That helps because I'd like to know exactly which devices I'm replacing and verify them on the schematic. This is one of the capacitors I pulled out. You can see that the rubber seal is bulged on one side and there's some deposit. That's the positive terminal. This is C416 and it's part of the filter for one of the boost circuits off the flyback transformer that supplies the CRT with focus voltage. At this point, I have to order some capacitors because I'm missing a few values, including this one, which is most unusual. 6.5 microfarads, non-polarized. I don't have one of these. Who does? The parts came from DigiKey, as usual, very quickly, and I can finish off the deflection board and give it a quick test. As expected, it didn't make any difference with the vertical oscillator. So let's look at the base now. 6 screws hold in the base cover. Here's the unit with the base cover removed. I find it hard to imagine that this is OEM, but the more I look at it, the more that I believe it is. Yes, that's a micro switch. There is some corrosion in here and a lot of dirt. It needs to be brushed out at the very, very least. I've taken off the 2 tuning knobs, VHF and UHF. Better pull this out too. There are some very fragile wires in there for the antenna. There are 4 screws that hold on the cover to the neck. That will allow me to detach the neck from the rest of the set. Pulling out those 4 screws removes this piece of trim over the back, revealing the tether between the two. And if I can unplug this, then I should be able to remove those 4 screws there and get the head out of the way entirely. Taking out the 4 screws, the cable runs under the bracket and over to this printed circuit board, and that needs to be unplugged.
Carefully pry around the outside of this plastic panel and lift it out.
The case halves will want to come apart, but they won't want to go over the antenna. There are 2 screws that need to come out, and that will loosen the antenna. I should be able to take the upper case half off. And it's off. Off to the races. First thing I'm going to do is get my handheld blower and blow this thing out of dust and other stuff. Then I can look at replacing the electrolytics, particularly the ones in the power supply, because I suspect the voltage is low, and in the vertical oscillator. There aren't that many. Just with a cursory glance, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A couple more over there. This is the tuner unit. I don't expect anything in there. Could be, but I don't think so. And of course, a bulb for the tuner. I'm really glad that string is not broken. That looks like it would be challenging to restring. I'm also going to have to find some way to repair this switch, which is broken off, and this switch here. I don't know whether that's what kind of switch this is yet. Looks like maybe a rotary switch. I don't know. This is broken off too. All these boards are screwed into the plastic base. I will have to take them out either one at a time or all at once and access them that way. This can be removed by taking out 3 screws, 1, 2, 3 plugs. Unfortunately,
The bottom
looks like the other boards. Not quite as bad, but still yucky.
This will have to be cleaned off before I can put in the new electrolytic capacitors.
Transformer, it doesn't have much on it, but yeah, this will not disconnect easily because this also connects to this regulator transistor. I will eventually be able to take everything out of the case and wash it. It looks like good old-fashioned filth and mold and yuck.
Mr. Capacitor says, if you're liking this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Mr. Brown's Basement.
Everything is off the base and I'll be able to clean it. It's possible that the label will not survive. So what I've done is I've taken a picture of it, and if necessary, I'll print it up in color
And stick it on.
No one will be the wiser, except everybody who watches this video. I've washed out all the cabinet pieces, and there was an amazing amount of crud, especially at the bottom of this piece here. It's looking a lot better, though not perfect, because it seems to be stained. The outside of the case is quite badly yellowed, and that's the kind of plastic it is that yellows over time. I suppose it could be retrobrighted. It's time consuming and it's not permanent. I'm far more concerned about the power switch and the band switch, how I'm going to restore those. I've cleaned this with spray 9 and a soft sponge, and it looks a lot cleaner. It smells better too. A closer look at the board. When I see corrosion on the bottom, I've got to wonder if corrosion is attacking the components on the top. like for example this one, this transistor. What can happen? Corrosion attacks the metal, it gets in underneath the epoxy, and eventually causes the semiconductor to fail. I had that happen on a Nintendo unit I repaired a long time ago. At this point, I'm going to start cleaning the underside, but it's possible that in addition to the capacitors that I'm sure have failed, that some of the transistors may be iffy too. Troubleshooting this in the plastic cabinet is going to be tricky. I suppose I could replace some of the transistors if I have them and not wait. Like, look at that. It's been about 2 hours of working with Q-tips and makeup pads and isopropyl alcohol, and now it's what you might call clean.
While working on this TV, I was searching the internet to find out what the brown sticky nasty stuff was on the printed circuit boards. It seems that few other people have encountered this stuff, but no one seems to know what it is. If you know anything about it or have experienced it too, please leave it in the comments.
Now that it's gone, I can concern myself with the electrolytics, all of which will be replaced, and possibly some of the transistors if they're not looking too sweet. I've recapped this board and tested many of the capacitors. A bunch of them are bad, but I don't think they could be responsible for the vertical problem that I'm experiencing. I think they may be a contributing factor, but they're not the full problem. What I'm going to do is look at the transistors in the vertical oscillator. I'm also going to check the horizontal oscillator and see if they're reasonable.
I pulled a couple of transistors out and tested them. They're operating properly, so I put them back. I don't think it's the transistors that are at fault. This is the AM/FM radio tuner board.
The problem with the tuner board is that the control for the different bands is broken off. It connects to an arm that moves this slide switch back and forth. So there's a great deal of stress on this point. Relatively short arm here and a relatively long arm on the other side. Whatever has to be attached to this has to be able to take a fair amount of force without breaking off or shearing off, which is what's happened here. This is what I'm talking about. I don't want to put the screw in much further because I'm afraid I could crack this. I don't want to do that. That would be really bad. This is the product I used, and that is what the handle is going to look like. I might file it down a little bit to make it smoother and then paint it black. It should do. The power switch presents the same problem, except there's less to work with. But I think I can do it again. I have this slide switch, which I probably picked up like 30 or 40 years ago. It's not exactly the same, but it's close, and I don't think I'll find anything much closer. I would cut this off, again, drill a hole in there, drill a hole in here, put in a pin, try and bond the two with epoxy. I don't know whether epoxy will stick to this, but there's only one way to find out. I don't have a lot of choices. I'll never find exactly that switch. It almost works. It's not going to come out, and it's strong. It's just at a slightly different angle. But I don't know if that's really worth whining about. I've recapped the TV board and the radio board. There are no capacitors over there. There's one capacitor on this connector. What I'm going to do is plug it in and turn it on without the head attached, just to see if it passes the smoke test. There it goes. Okay, it's in the radio position, television position. Okay, no smoke. That's a good thing. The radio works. I'm getting a very weak picture like I was getting before. So I want to measure right there, which should be about 18 volts DC. And when I measure it, that's on the positive side of the 3300 microfarad capacitor, I get 8 volts. That would suggest that 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those rectifiers may be bad, or the transformer may be bad. But what I can do is I can inject 18 volts there and see if I get a decent picture just from my power supply. Injecting 17 volts in, it's 770 milliamps. I get a raster, and not a bad raster. The question is, why am I not getting 17 volts? Since I've replaced the capacitors, it can only be the diodes to the transformer. I've got power going into the transformer. The power to the transformer is unswitched on this set. There's power going to the transformer as long as it's plugged in. Yellow is primary, red is secondary. It should be around 12 volts AC for sure. And it is 9 volts AC, roughly half of what it should be. This transformer is defective. It occurred to me that maybe this was a 110/220 volt transformer wired up the wrong way. That would be wonderful. But there are only 2 wires coming out of the primary side, the 2 yellows, which means there's no way to change the input voltage for this transformer. Let's measure primary resistance. Resistance of the primary, it is 93.7 ohms, where it should be 21 ohms. So we have a bad transformer here. I wonder if I have anything that will fit. I have some 3 amp transformers, which would be great, but they're too big. And I have some half amp transformers, which are too small. So I feel like Goldilocks without the hair.
Another delivery from DigiKey.
A transformer for the television. They call them filament transformers because they used to be used for tube filaments, but now it's just a general purpose, low voltage, step-down transformer, or just a step-down transformer. In this case, 16 volts AC at an amp, which should be enough for the set.
And will fit.
The new transformer has been put in, and I was able to salvage the EM shield around the transformer, so it looks more like the original, and it has some shielding. The fuse was replaced in there, so it doesn't look so yucky as it did before. We can apply power. What I should get is 11 volts on the green conductor. Power is off. Power is on. And pretty close to 11 volts, which I should be seeing. There's a voltage adjust potentiometer, and I can trim it up to 11 once the head part is on. The tuning knob looks a little different. I ground it down with a nail grinder and painted it. It looks more reasonable. The other control, let me move this over, looks good. Yeah, I can see it's tilted slightly to the left, but I don't think you'll see it once it's all together. I think there are issues with my RF modulator, but other than that, I would say that it's working. It's not fully together. I wanted to make sure it was working before putting it together. If I go to radio, yeah, it works on FM. Yeah, I would say it works.
Walker. Philip Walker. That was the name of the last guy who stalked me.
Oh, man. I'm busted.
Yeah, you busted.
Well, it's all back together, and it's working. Not bad with the knobs. I would certainly give myself a pass. Hope you would too. And over there as well. The only thing I'm missing is the little piece of plastic that goes over here. I think I had it, I just don't know where it is. But if I can find it, I'll put it back. If I can't find it, well, then I'll make a new one. But yeah, that's the JVC Video Capsule 3100R. I hope you enjoyed this video from Mr. Brown's Basement. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more interesting and unusual videos.